descends from the mountain and crosses everything: the grass, the forest edge, the clearings between trees. It's a presence that doesn't need to hide, because in an age like this, there is nothing big enough to force it to. Titanoboa doesn't hunt like a big cat. Titanoboa takes ownership of the world, until, sooner or later, the world hands it the right mistake. Not far away, among the trunks, a massive hominid watches, broad, shaggy, still as a knot in wood. It doesn't watch out of curiosity, it studies. In its world, seeing means learning, and learning means staying alive one more day. Out on the plain, another story moves. A large feline enters the scene with knife-like elegance. Body low, shoulders working like springs, steps soft and precise. Ahead, prey moves without urgency, unawares. It's the hunt we recognize: approach, choice, burst. But in this world, the problem is always the same. While one predator looks forward, another predator is already occupying the future. Titanoboa crosses a clearing, cuts through tall grass, slips into a darker stretch of vegetation. It's gigantic, and yet it moves without breaking the air, as if the landscape itself makes room for it. And just when the plain seems too wide to become a trap, the trap takes shape. Because the plain always ends in the same place: water. The river appears like a natural boundary, a dark ribbon that promises life, coolness, fish, rest, thirst satisfied. And that is exactly why it's dangerous. Everyone, sooner or later, comes to the river, and Titanoboa knows it. The snake slows even more, not because it hesitates, but because it chooses. Its body angles toward the bank. The water reflects the light and tricks the eye, and that's where Titanoboa makes the decisive transition from land into its true kingdom. It enters the river with a movement that seems impossible for a mass that large. The surface ripples, then seals again, and Titanoboa disappears. It hasn't vanished, it has turned into an idea, a shadow beneath the skin of the water, a danger you can't measure until it's already too close. On the bank, shortly after, comes the most fragile scene of all: a large female big cat with her cubs. The little ones follow with the kind of trust that exists only when you've never truly seen death. The mother is more cautious, but she has the same need as everything else: to drink. And drinking means lowering your head. It means shrinking the world to a small circle at the exact moment you should be seeing it wider. Beneath the surface, Titanoboa is already in position. The riverbank is quiet: leaves, wind, water. Then the river changes texture, a tremor, pressure, and suddenly the surface explodes. Titanoboa rises, lifts its head, and opens its mouth like a dark gateway. Spray, mud, foam. It isn't theatrical, it's a declaration. This space is mine. The mother snarls and sidesteps back. The cubs stumble, bunched together, searching for the mother's body like shelter. But here, shelter lasts only a blink. Titanoboa advances a hand's breadth. That's all it takes, a single hand's breadth, to turn thirst into panic. The escape bursts open. The cubs run without a line. The mother calls them, pushes them, steers them. Tall grass becomes a maze. Trunks become obstacles. Roots become traps for paws. And Titanoboa follows. It doesn't run. It doesn't need to. Because a serpent like this doesn't hunt with speed. It hunts by removing options. It advances and closes. It presses and narrows. It turns the plain into a corridor, and the corridor into a funnel. The cats zigzag, try to cut sideways, search for gaps between trees, change direction. But the more they move, the tighter the world becomes. And then the final boundary appears: a falls, a cliff of rock and water. Ahead, the void. Behind, Titanoboa. Here, you understand the cruelest rule. Often, the predator doesn't build the trap. The landscape does. The predator only has to push you into it. In the chaos, someone slips. A body drops into the wrong place, where the current accelerates and does not forgive. The water grabs the prey and drags it toward the whirlpools. The rowel breaks into spray and foam. In water, claws don't matter. Control does. And Titanoboa, in water, is pure control. Its silhouette cuts the surface and slides into the current as if it were born for that moment. The cat fights, thrashes, tries to cling to a floating log. For an instant, it succeeds. One breath, one paw finding purchase. But here, time isn't a unit, it's an enemy. From above, the hominid has seen everything, and it doesn't look away. It descends with purpose and runs along the bank. It isn't a modern hero, it's a creature that has learned something few animals can afford to learn. When you can't win with your body, you can try to win with an idea. We see it seize a rough spear, a primitive weapon, yes, but enough for one essential thing: distance. Because against a gigantic snake, you don't win by pushing harder, you win if you can avoid being wrapped. The hominid steps into the shallow water and plants itself like a pillar against the current. In front of it, the surface boils. Titanoboa is close, ready to close in. The first strike isn't elegant, it's necessary. The spear plunges into the water, then hits the dark body. A second strike, a third, not to kill immediately, but to change the line, to break the angle. Titanoboa sways and retreats half a meter that here is a life. The cat uses the instant, hauls itself onto the log, finds air. The hominid drags it toward the bank, while the current keeps pushing like an invisible hand. Titanoboa calculates. Even a super predator reads risk. A wound isn't pain, it's hunger tomorrow. And when prey becomes too expensive, even a monster chooses not to pay the price. The snake retreats. It becomes shadow again, and the river becomes a river again, at least in appearance. On the bank, a heavy silence remains. The hominid doesn't celebrate. It looks at the cat, soaked, exhausted, alive by the thinnest margin. Then it lifts it, carries it on its shoulders, and walks away. It isn't tenderness in the modern sense. It's something older, recognizing value and deciding to carry it away from the edge of disaster. The plain opens up. The light shifts. Ahead appears a shelter, a simple hut of branches and leaves. A minimal sign, but a powerful one, a boundary. The hominid works. It drags wood, stacks branches, prepares a fire. Every gesture says the same thing: I don't want to survive only today. The flames catch. Light dances on the hominid's face and in the cat's eyes as it edges toward the warmth. Cautious, still shaken. For a moment, the war feels far, but it isn't. Because out there, between grass, forest, and trees, the same truth still exists. Titanoboa can return. It can descend from the heights. It can cross the plain. It can enter the river. And tomorrow, the world will demand its price again. And yet, something has changed. In an age ruled by monsters, the only weapon that never grows old is born: intelligence, choice, the ability